Regular council meeting. Mayor Bumstead is in Mexico, having a well-deserved break with some friends. Councillor Javetkov phoned me just about half an hour ago. He's quite sick, so we do have a quorum, and of course. Lechtrum, you'll see, don't get confused. Duncan Redfern is the Chief Administrative Officer until March the 19th, but Blair is designated as such after Duncan's departure. So but you'll see two labels. I think it's the first time we've had two people with the title in the same room, so this is a novel thing. So we'll begin our agenda with our delegations. Tristan Lear, resident of Fort Nelson, welcome.
Hi, thank you.
The floor is all yours for your presentation.
Right, good morning, everybody. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, very well.
All right. I guess I sent you guys a little bit of homework previous to this. Yeah. I hope it kind of opened the door to what I'm up to. Just about 2 years ago, I was in a car accident, and I've been living in this wheelchair. And I returned home about a year ago. And one thing I've noticed about my recovery is there's not a lot of space for a person like me to be living outside of a hospital right now. But they've built vehicles, they've built wheelchairs, they've had amazing medicine advancements. And I think the last key is to open up society's doors so that people like me can return back to our families and our life. I'm a single mother of 2 kids. And lately I've been struggling trying to get my day-to-day routines done. Grocery shopping, going to the schools, going to the doctors. I go into these buildings and I park my vehicle there. And most times I get out and I've got to wait. So I've got to sit in a parking lot and wait because somebody has pulled beside my accessible parking space. But there's lack of room for me to get back in my vehicle. So sometimes I've left my ramp open so that I could access my vehicle once again after being in the stores. And my kids have had to go inside to find people because they've driven over my ramp and still parked beside my vehicle. The display of what I'm asking of Mayor and Council today is kind of a way to ask you guys to help me step up. I know there's room for this in the Accessible Canada Act. It was passed May 2019 on the federal level. But what's in that act is no designated parking spaces. There's a lot of talk about bringing accessibility back into society, but they're working in more of in the workspace, in the municipality, in general, in the public. Well, that's fine, but we can't get there. That's the problem. We love that they've opened it all, but we still can't come to these functions and we still can't enjoy what they're offering to us. I think this is the last key. So what I've proposed is Northern Rockies is a pretty strong voice. I've seen Northern Rockies do a lot, right? We all come together as small communities, and it works really well. I've been to my mayor and council in Fort Nelson, and I'm hoping that mayor and council in Dawson Creek and Fort St. John could help to display this active parking in the parking spaces at town and council. In your town hall is all I've requested so far. I feel that people can't really understand till you see what the problem is, and I understand that's been a problem going forward. So I had a young lady in Fort Nelson actually make this sign, and it's really loud. This sign is actually displaying more of where I want to go with this. I know if you see now, you see handicap, but handicap is a group of people in general, and it doesn't display the room for the wheelchair. So I'm hoping we can get the word handicap out of legislation by the end of this and bring to light more of a wheelchair accessible and accessible world. Because handicap kind of makes everything sound like it stops. And I know in my experience, the more life I get back, the more recovery my body gets, the more I feel back to myself and functionable and able to get better. It's a crazy thing to say, and I've been experiencing it and it works. And I'm really worried that if I don't have the space in my life, I don't think I'm going to get any better. And I think there's a lot of people like me that feel this way. So this logo here and this sign I'm asking for town and council to display is called Just Accessible. This is the next step for me where I need to be after I'm done in my wheelchair. I don't think I'm going to get any better if I don't have this accessible space. I've talked to Spark BC, and I've talked to Spinal Cord Injury of British Columbia, and through the summer, what we're going to do is use this color purple to raise awareness for persons with disabilities. This sign is the first step, and I'm hoping this sign and you guys displaying it in Fort Nelson, Fort St. John, and Dawson Creek is going to allow us to bring awareness through social media, display the use for this, and hopefully we can change the legislation to make Canada more accessible, not handicap it. I've been talking with Dan Davies and Mike Bernier, and they've supported this movement with the new sign and the new space 100%. And since I've written to you guys last, I actually got a letter from a minister where Dan was down in Victoria speaking with, I forget her first name now, Claire Triviana. And she says, although the ministry recommends a minimum requirement for accessible parking as part of development applications near provincial roads, the ministry standards only applies to the specific development and not to other parking areas in the municipality. If a municipality has set an enhanced standard for accessible parking spaces in their community, then the ministry would follow the municipal standard. I can forward this to you guys if you needed it for more information. But what I see happening here is if our communities come together, my plan is to be in Victoria in April and show the means and the need for this and speak on behalf of our northern communities that we've stepped up and BC could be leaders, right? I want BC to be leaders in the Canadian legislation for accessibility. There's room for it, and I'm hoping our local towns can start here with just displaying this parking space in your town square and helping us bring awareness to persons with disabilities. On the other note, I've been speaking with Pomeroy and the Pomeroy Hotels and Canadian Tire, and I'm pretty sure your guys' local Pomeroy and Canadian Tire are going to help display this as well, which could make a really large step to legislation because we can go all over BC showing the display and the need for this parking space. I wondered if you guys had any questions.
Okay, Council, any questions of Preston? Shelley.
I don't actually have a question, but I want to say kudos on you for doing this. So personally speaking, my father was in a car accident when he was 75 and became a quadriplegic. He ran his chair with a straw. And so I've seen exactly what you're talking about, ramps being run over, being blocked, not being able to get the chair out. But most recently, and to my colleagues, I was driving downtown and there was a young lady in a wheelchair who had come out of the Royal Bank. She actually had to go out, off the sidewalk, onto the street, around the curb to get into her van because someone had blocked her. So I'm very interested in this and seeing how we can move it forward. I do understand that people do get the designated parking with their handicap tag, but there is a difference between mobility accessibility and those that need it for other reasons. And I would be happy to support you on this, and hopefully later in our discussions we'll talk about it and see what we can do. But I just want to put it out there because it really is an issue in all communities, and there's a difference when you're relying on a chair to get around and when you may have heart or breathing problems that you need to be closer to an entrance. So thank you for doing this. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Just like to draw your attention to the schematic diagrams of what you were putting forward in your presentation. I'm sure every council member has seen those, but
Yes.
it certainly helped me understand what you're requesting, and I'm sure we all acknowledge this need and will consider it under Mayor's business later on today's meeting. And thank you for your work on this. Thank you very much.
Can I add one more thing to the display?
Yes.
Oh, did you have a question?
Oh,
Go ahead.
I was just going to, with respect to your outreach to the other municipal governments throughout the region, Northern Rockies and what have you inquired with them about bringing this issue forward at, I guess the next opportunity for them would be NCLGA, if you wanted to have municipalities throughout British Columbia lobby the provincial government to take action on this, that might be, and if they're already taking the lead on it, I wouldn't be opposed to us. I know the deadline's coming up for us to get any resolutions in, but I wouldn't be opposed to us. I mean, depending on what happens under mayor's business, we potentially be a part of that, but that might be an avenue to take as well.
I really, really like the sounds of that, yes. And that's where you guys are going to be able to help this more. There's definitely a need for it. The display, I wanted to let you know, is going to come at zero cost to the town, the one stall. I have people donating these signs and the installation of them through this movement I called Step Up. And if you allow it to happen in your town hall, it's going to come at $0 at a cost to you guys at all for the one display, where one parking space would show accessible and the parking space next to it would show the 4 feet that's needed in order for the ramp to be deployed and put back in the same space. I actually parked at a space today that would be perfect for this display for you guys. So it's more of if there's a cost you're wondering about, it'll be $0. We just need to get it up, most definitely.
Okay, thank you. And you know that NCLGA is North Central Local Government Association?
Sorry about that.
That's all the North pretty well. So it's a good idea. I think we should consider that. But
And I was just down in Prince George talking to some bylaw officers. Prince George is already interested in taking this. I just wanted this to start with the Northern Rockies. I love my home, and I think that we deserve to display this and show the credit. And I think that we can speak the most because our communities do. They live at heart, and we will be able to do this right. If we let them have it first, they're going to do it all wrong. I know they will. They don't think about us northern communities when they make their laws. Am I right?
No.
Yeah.
I think
one's
your
saying
comments
anything.
like a thought. Well, thank you very much for your presentation, and as I say, we'll consider it later on today.
Thank you so much for your guys' time. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. So our next presentation on Pembina Pipeline, Veresen Midstream. We have 2 representatives there. Perhaps you can introduce yourselves, and we would welcome your presentation.
Morning, everybody. Thank you for having us here today. My name is Leanne Chartrand. I am a Community Affairs Advisor for Pembina Pipeline, and with me today is Jeff Spence. He is our Supervisor for our BC Deep Basin region. We're here today to talk about our corporation, our local operations, our community investment and community engagement for both Pembina Pipeline and Veresen Midstream. And later on in the presentation, we'll talk about the relationship between Pembina and Veresen. I also want to point out that Pembina and Veresen find our relationship with our municipal governments very important, and the presentations that we're providing to our local councils is an effort to reach out and start building relationships with very important key stakeholders in our business. Pembina is a leading North American transportation and midstream service provider. For 65 years, Pembina has been safely and reliably connecting oil, natural gas, and natural gas liquids to the markets that need it. Pembina owns an integrated system of pipelines that transport various hydrocarbon liquids and natural gas products. And Pembina also owns a gas gathering processing facilities and an oil and natural gas infrastructure and logistics business. We process, transport, and store our customers' products safely while protecting the environment and delivering on its commitments to stakeholders, community, government, and Aboriginal groups. This balanced approach to conducting business is essential in building the trust that we need with our stakeholders. To understand what a midstream company does, we need to look at the energy industry as a whole. There are 3 main businesses in the energy industry. Upstream finds and produces the crude oil and the natural gas. They are the companies that search for where the products are located and pull them out of the ground. Midstream companies like Pembina and Veresen process, store, and markets and transports commodities such as crude oil, natural gas liquids, and sulfur. The midstream provides the vital link between the petroleum producer companies and the population centers where the consumers are located. And last in the chain is the downstream business. This includes the oil refineries, the petrochemical plants, petroleum product distributors, retail outlets, natural gas distribution companies. The downstream industry touches every province and territory wherever consumers are located and produces thousands of products that we use every day. This is just a short list of some of the items that are produced by petroleum products. Who knew that soft contact lenses are produced through a petroleum product?
So why are we well positioned to talk about hydrocarbon transport? We operate, maintain and operate 18,000 kilometers of pipelines that would stretch across North America, west to east, 3 times. Each year, our gas plants process enough gas to heat 11.7 million homes in Canada. As you can see from the map, we're pretty busy. Today, I'm going to highlight the operations in our BC Deep Basin region. But before I get into that, I'd just like to point out that Pembina operates in BC under subsidiaries Plateau Pipeline, Pembina NGL Corporation, Pouce-Coupe Pipeline, and Pembina Energy Services. So our BC Deep Basin region, we feel is fairly vast. We do operate throughout BC. We have the one gas processing plant, the Younger plant in Taylor, the 1,800 kilometers of pipeline approximately, and 4 truck terminals. 3 of those terminals are currently in operation. The 4th one is under construction in Kamloops, and 8 pump stations. Pembina within your community. So communities put their trust in Pembina, allowing us to operate in their backyards. We honor that trust by building long-term relationships with the communities where we also live and work. At Pembina, our 5 investment pillars are community building, education, environment, safety, and wellness. Jumping?
Oh, did I go too fast?
Oh, it's okay. In Dawson Creek, specifically the Dawson Creek area, what did the community investment look like? We supported the Dawson Creek Exhibition and Stampede, sponsoring the sports medicine team. We sponsored the 50th anniversary swim meet hosted by the Dawson Creek Seals in July, which attracted swimmers from as far as 700 kilometers away. We're also a proud supporter at the Encana Event Center. We are also a proud supporter of Mad Canada. We helped facilitate a couple of the presentations for those in local schools. We also are a supporter of the South Peace Community Resource Society snowplowing program for a number of years now. That program helps keep driveways clear for seniors that can't look after that on their own.
Good enough.
Yep.
Okay.
Good now. And these are just a couple of the pictures from various CI events that we have been with. One of the ones that we've tied ourselves to recently is Tree Canada. We have a number of opportunities coming up again in 2020. NEAT is the Northern Environmental Action Team, and we worked with them on a 2-day event here in Dawson Creek with the college, where we had the opportunity to introduce some additional energy literacy to teachers from the area. What else? Good? Yep.
Great. And in case you aren't aware, Pemina's office closest to Dawson is in Fort St. John, and we have another office in Prince Rupert, as well as Grand Prairie. But those are the two offices that we have in BC. So another set of assets that are in the area that Pembina has an interest in are owned by Veresen Midstream. Oh, thank you. Veresen Midstream is jointly owned by Pembina Pipeline Corporation and Kohlberg Kravis Roberts, which is a leading Western Canadian natural gas and natural gas liquids midstream business with a focus on providing flexible and innovative natural gas and NGL processing service solutions to the producer community in Alberta and BC. Pembina is the contract operator of the two Veresen-owned gas plants, one at Steep Rock, which is in BC, and the Hythe Brainerd plant, which is just over the Alberta-BC border. Ovintiv, previously known as Encana, is the contract operator of Veresen Midstream's other 6 facilities located between Fort St. John and Dawson Creek. These include the Sunrise, Saturn, and Tower gas plants, the Tower truck terminal, and the North Central and South Central liquids hubs. So like Pembina, Veresen is very interested in being a good neighbor in the communities where we have operations. Communities put our trust into having our operations in their backyards, and we want to show them that we respect that trust. We honor that by building long-term relationships within those communities where we work and we live and play. Our 5 investment pillars are just like Pembina's. We focus on community building, education, environment, safety, and wellness. And in 2019, Veresen had a number of really great opportunities to partner with organizations in the city of Dawson Creek. Some highlights include a $20,000 donation to the School District 59 to help with the installation of the solar lighting system at the Pat O'Reilly Outdoor and Environmental Studies Center, as well as the purchasing of junior skills kits in action. We purchased a bladder scanner for the hospital. We purchased a bunch of books called Murphy Monday, donated those to the hospital with the hope that when children are admitted to the hospital, they are then given a book to read. The book itself talks about a therapy dog. It's a true story based out of Saskatchewan, St. John's Ambulance therapy dog that's brought into the hospitals and goes around and just provides smiles to a lot of the patients in those hospitals. And so Murphy Monday is about that story. And so we made that donation to the hospital. And then we partnered with the city this summer to ensure that the cost of family swimming at the Dawson Creek pool was offset with our donation. And we just wrapped up sponsorship kicking off our 2020 community investment with the BC Winter Games. Veresen Midstream sponsored the alpine skiing event out here at the Bear Mountain ski hill. And it was a fantastic event and a wonderful games. I commend everybody that was involved in it. And we do look forward to the remainder of the year and the investments yet to come from Veresen Midstream. Are there any questions?
I find the keeping up with the oil companies and who's bought out who quite a challenge. So it's always good to get some information about the current linkages. It's a dynamic business.
It is. It's very
Yeah.
fluid,
Yeah.
literally. Yeah.
No puns allowed in council.
Any questions of our presenters?
I don't have a question, but I just want to say thank you for your investment in the community, because a lot of times people don't recognize that within the community, that it is actually these companies that are investing, so we can provide those services. So thank you.
Great. Well, thank you for
Thank
having
you
us.
so much for your presentation
Thank
and for your contribution to our community. Thank you. So next presentation is from the Waste Management Association. Chris Lemaistre, right. And Gary Daly?
Yes.
Yes, welcome.
Good morning. Can you hear me okay? Good morning, and thank you for having us. You've got our presentation there. I'm just going to get my bearings here with the controls. Okay, perfect. So we've got a fairly short agenda for you today, and we'd be happy to take questions, of course, at the end. So just really 3 quick topics. We're going to introduce ourselves, talk a little bit about who we are. We're going to summarize the current curbside services that Waste Management provides here in Dawson Creek. And then we're going to talk about our desire and our proposal to extend our relationship on the black cart collection services. I'm at the top there. My name is Chris Lemaist. I'm the Business Development Manager here for what we call our Western Canada area. It includes Dawson Creek here in the Peace Country all the way through to the Manitoba-Ontario border. Part of my responsibilities include working closely with our municipal partners, including the City of Dawson Creek.
All right, I'm Gary Daly. I'm the District Manager here for the Peace Region, and we have about 22 employees. I guess that's on the next slide. Yeah. Also, we've got Jason Lajeunesse, Resi driver. He's been providing service here for about 19 years now.
Perfect. Okay, so if you didn't already know, Waste Management is North America's largest integrated environmental services provider. That positions us as the industry leader in providing comprehensive waste management services. The company is 40,000 plus employees, providing services throughout Canada and the United States. Our core services include commercial, industrial, and residential collection services, as well as disposal, recycling, and organics management. Our core values are safety, customers, the environment, and inclusion and diversity.
Oh, all right. Yeah, our area for Western Canada covers the Peace Region through to Manitoba. We've got just over 20 employees, over 4 locations, 3 of which are here in Dawson Creek. Some things we participate in, we've done a Touch a Truck event a couple of times with LP out at the Pioneer Village area for a couple of years. And, yeah.
Okay.
Service approximately 47 homes on both black cart waste collection and the curbside recycling.
Great. The reason we're here today is Waste Management deeply values our relationship with the City of Dawson Creek. We've been providing services on the waste collection for many, many years. This current contract started in the spring of 2015 and is nearing its expiry on the initial term on April 30th of this year. So we would like to propose extending that agreement so that the cities and its residents can continue to enjoy the high quality and reliable service that we provide, and most notably that Jason provides, our driver. And also that would, I think there's a benefit there because moving that expiry of this current contract through to August of 2023 as our proposal would synchronize the expiry of both the black cart collection service and the blue cart collection service, positioning the city well to consider future service delivery options together at that time. So that's our proposal, is that council consider providing the opportunity for us to extend our black cart collection contract through to 2023. Be happy to take any questions.
Just before I throw it open, what would be some of the advantages that you see accruing from the synchronization of the black bots and blue bots, the expiry date?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think what it does simply is allow the city to consider potential alternatives, whether that be an idea that often gets considered, and I don't mean to complicate the discussion, but should there be an opportunity or some desire to consider reducing the black cart frequency to bi-weekly, for example, gives the city the opportunity to couple those two services a little bit more directly than they are today, with the black cart being weekly and the blue cart being bi-weekly. That's just one example. There may also be benefits in terms of harmonizing the contracts and just from a pure contract development and contract management perspective. So I think it's just about potential synergies associated with those two programs when they be considered together.
Mm-hmm. What's been the experience with reducing the black bots pick up from weekly to bi-weekly in other communities?
Well, I think it's noteworthy that in a lot of communities that's done as and when they address an organics diversion program at the curb. So it's probably important that I table that. Is that I don't know that I've seen it done where organics wasn't being addressed in some other manner. But that being said, there are potential options that might be considered alongside of that. Each community in our experience has kind of looked at what their goals and objectives are from a program and a diversion perspective, and then consider how you go developing that.
I'm glad you mentioned the organics, synchronizing of that. Yes.
Thank you. And just kind of a bit of a sidebar, I guess. Our current goals and objectives are to reduce the amount of contamination in our recyclables from, like, what was it, 25% or upwards of 15 to 20% some weeks, or by weeks, I guess. Is that in other communities a common issue? And what have you seen any measures that have been successful in reducing that? Because we're just having a heck of a time here. I know Pouce Coupe seems to have gotten a handle on theirs, and for other communities it's not an issue once the initial onboarding process is complete, but for us it's been ongoing, and it's at the point where it's leading to cost overruns, and you hear some pretty awful stories on behalf of the guys at the recycling depot who have to rummage through some of the stuff people put in there. So any suggestions would be tremendously helpful at this point.
Yeah, sure. And that challenge is not unique to Dawson Creek and then the program you have here, for sure. So at a really high level, when we talk about recycling, and I'd actually encourage you to go to our website and wm.com and look at Recycle Right, wm.com/Recycle Right. What you'll find there are our latest tools and resources, really specifically talking to recycling right, as simple as that sounds. Starts with quality materials, like the right materials and quality materials going into the cart at set out. So again, it's really focused on the front end. What we found across programs is that a really diligent focus on education at the local level has been the most effective. And across our organization over the last 12 or 18 months, we're seeing progress. We're seeing overall contamination levels, I'm going to draw my memory here, but this is directionally correct, reducing from in the low 20% range into the high teens. So we're seeing a 3 or 4% improvement across our organization, and that's across about 104 recycling facilities that we own and operate. I would suggest that might be a really good place for us to continue to focus here, is with that education, those education efforts, and really trying to communicate the Recycle Right. What is it that the program is targeting, which materials, and really encouraging folks to try and get the focus right there. Because you're right, the wrong materials are simply referred to as contamination, non-recyclable materials, can be problematic in the program and drive costs. So we understand that.
And just for clarification, you're asking this letter with respect to just extend it, so essentially rolling over the existing contract for another 40 months? No. You mentioned in your answer to
That's the time, yes.
Okay.
In term, we're proposing 40 months. We'd like to, privately discuss a couple of the specifics.
Okay, deal points are.
Yeah, a couple of specifics, privately, they're commercially sensitive, but in terms of the timeline, that 40 months is correct.
Okay, thank you.
No, that's an important question. I was thinking it was just a rollover, but
But when he suggested the harmonization and some other deal points, it's suggested might be more there. So I just wanted some clarification. Thank you for that.
Good.
Thank you.
Any other questions, comments? Well, thank you for your presentation and for being here. We will consider this matter later on this morning.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank
Thanks
you
for
very
having us.
And
I was going to say we're now going to have a presentation by Shelley Fumes, but I thought that would be hard to say. Just keep a straight face. Shelley and I are related. So, Katie and Steve, you're going to rescue Shelley from the presentation and give us a presentation.
Thanks.
So we're discussing arterial clearing through Dawson Creek.
Yeah.
Yes, hot potato.
Yeah, so in coming here today, we were looking at a lot of different, should we bring any materials, any things like that? But what I thought would probably be best is just to talk about the generalities of how it works across the province, and more importantly, what the concerns are around here. So maybe just to start off, I think there's across the province there's a general sort of guideline that is anything beyond curb and gutter is the responsibility of the municipality, and those discussions would have taken place way back when the sidewalks were first installed. Knowing that there's different needs and changing priorities across all the municipalities, we hesitate to be so firm in that stance. And what has worked across the province is discussions mostly with the maintenance contractors, so Argos of the world, and discussing around shared priorities. So in a lot of communities, that means some swapping off of maintaining roads that might be make a bit more sense for others to maintain. So rather than having one plow truck circle this way and one plow truck circle that way, there's a shared maintenance. It really looks different across the province based on the capabilities of the municipality and the priorities. So with that in mind, we're happy to discuss it either here, what something could look like around those things, or at another time. There's questions around maybe specifics.
So I'm left a little bit of a disadvantage. I was away for the last two meetings, but I understand one of the issues is where the snow gets pushed to. Am I correct in that assumption? Go ahead.
Somewhat, yeah. So it's not just a matter of where the snow gets pushed to, it's the timing of when the snow is getting pushed, and us either undermining your work or you inadvertently undermining our work to the extent that we're having to redo sections of our sidewalk along Alaska and 8th. And depending on what our schedule is like, what the demand for is removal, that not only costs us significantly more money but in man hours, but also compromises accessibility for people who can't traverse those without a clean sidewalk. So that was, I think, the gist of it, is we were trying to find either a procedure we can agree on that would allow us to not be continually running into this issue, whether it's a matter of just some professional collaboration between our development services and the good folks at Argo to make sure that we have a heads up when to expect a bunch of snow coming onto the sidewalk so we know when to move it, or yeah, something like that. If I'm mistaken, Duncan, please chime in. Or
so, through chair.
I don't know who I'm talking to.
We're working on this ourselves.
I'll jump in through chair. So council requested to have a discussion, and really the context was we're getting a bit of a heads up of when the snow is going to be removed, but it's still plugging our sidewalks and freezing, and we've put an approximate price to remove that snow, because unfortunately there's really nowhere to put it, at about $10,000 per occurrence. And that's to take a blower in there and blow it into trucks and actually remove it. And unfortunately there just isn't anywhere to put that, right? In the past, we just rolled it back out of the street, and then the next time they came through, they rolled it back onto the sidewalk, and we just passed it back and forth. So I think it was council's intent that we might be able to find some resolve at some point, and we've had this discussion a number of times, and like I said, I think the contractor's been good in notifying, but it's still an added cost to the city of Dawson Creek short of just rolling it back on the road. I think that's kind of the context of the discussion today.
And I think that's quite common with every municipality, because there is that clearing the roads, clearing the sidewalks, and that's where the mutually beneficial agreements have sort of been worked out between maintenance contractors and the city to sort of look at, where they can help out, where you have equipment that might be able to help them out. Like I said, there's often shared maintenance. Thinking back to the last places that I worked, so the city of Nelson, they did all of the work through the arterial because they have such a demand for parking, and it's a very pedestrian-driven town. However, our maintenance contractor would help out with some sections of road that were sort of at the very much of their city limits that was hard to get a truck to for them, and did some bridge inspections and sort of other services that would coordinate that and sort of balance out that load of work. So I think without speaking too much for Argo, we're open to those discussions certainly to see where we can make something work for it.
Okay.
Yeah, I was just going to add maybe further, Katie, is that I think all parties involved, all residents involved, recognize it's a very challenging situation as to what, is the best outcome or scenario to work together on that. But I think from a ministry perspective, and again, not speaking for Argo, but I'm sure from Argo's perspective as well, that more than willing to come to the table and try and, really brainstorm some outcomes here and some positive sharing agreements as to how we can counteract the situation that we currently have.
Well, it makes sense to try and do that for sure. So this is something that surely staff will be handling and reporting back on. Is that right?
Yes. Your Worship. It's an interesting day. We will contact the ministry and we will sit down along with Argo and see if we can't find a solution. This is not a 1 or a 2-year-old problem. This is decades old. So hopefully we can, with the challenges we see before us, find a path forward that will work for everybody. But the key here is not, to be honest, the city or Argo, it's the residents who need access to those sidewalks, and that's the key that we've got to resolve. So we'll work on that together.
So that's great. So just for my education, arterial roads with 8th Street, Alaska Avenue, that's the only arterial road, is it, that we're talking about?
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you very much for being here.
Okay. Thanks.
Look forward to the results of your dialogue.
Hope you guys didn't make too far a trip for that, but the whole time. Okay. Well, thank you for coming. Thanks.
Thank you. So under new councillor business, I'm going to give the floor to Councillor Amy Kemp, first of all.
So I had encouraged council to wear pink today. I don't know if you're aware, the Pink Shirt Day or Anti-Bullying Day is on February 26th. It's a day when people come together to wear pink shirts to school or work and to show their support against anti-bullying, which is an idea that originated in Canada. The focus of 2020 is lift each other up. So the original event was organized by David Shepard and Travis Price of Berwick, Nova Scotia, when in 2007 bought and distributed 50 pink shirts after a male 9th grade student, Chuck McNeil, was bullied for wearing a pink shirt during the first day of school. So that's where it originated. Types of bullying include physical bullying, verbal bullying, social-related bullying, or even cyberbullying. So I just encourage everyone who's against bullying to wear a pink shirt on February 26th to support this.
Good. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Your prompt made me go and buy a new tie. I thought I saw your tie where I bought my tie. Is that new as well?
No, I've had this for many.
Oh, okay. Just checking. No, thank you. It is it's unfortunately a pervasive problem in our society, and it has many manifestations. So anything else you'd like to share? Any new business? Councillor Earl?
Just wanted to take the opportunity, Your Worship, to congratulate Bear Mountain Ski Hill and our neighbors in Fort St. John for the successful completion and execution of the 2020 BC Winter Games. From all accounts, all the visitors to our community were very impressed with the ski hill and the amenities offered, and good work to them and kudos.
Okay.
Yep.
That's
Thank you. I didn't have a pink shirt, but I found a pink ribbon to wear today. I haven't picked up. I haven't picked up my T-shirt yet, but I think I'll have it for my other job. What I wanted to touch base on was the hospital had put out this nice little contact of services in the community, different programs that we have. But on the inside, there are some writings of our local writer, Mr. Robin Gibson. And so I wanted to say congratulations to him, and Robin, you're officially published. That means you're published. But what is in here, and it kind of relates to the anti-bullying and just life in general, but he ends with, let's be safe, respect yourself, respect each other, be kind to yourself, and let's be kind to each other. So I think those are very important words leading up to anti-bullying. And yeah, if you get one, please get it and take time to read Mr. Gibson's writings on the inside. So congratulations. And to our hospital, I'm not sure if it was the hospital foundation or the hospital themselves, thank you for producing this. So it talks about food programs, emergency shelter. If you just need to talk to somebody, all the numbers are listed on here. So what a great piece of literature to have in our community.
Good. Thank you. This past Friday, I went to Vancouver on behalf of Mayor and Council to represent the city at the Small Business BC Awards 2020, held at the Vancouver Convention Centre. You may not know that Dawson Creek was a finalist in that ceremony under the Open for Business Awards. So I'm reading from the catalogue here. The Open for Business Awards recognizes BC communities that best demonstrate their support of small business. A business-friendly community is one that strives to understand the needs of small businesses, make the community more competitive, attract and retains business investment, makes it easier to attract and develop talent, recognize the local contributions of small business, reduce red tape, help small business access government procurement opportunities. The communities of the province are divided into 3 categories: small, medium, and large. And for this purposes, we're a medium-sized community. And the finalists, I think there were 31 communities, and we were finalists for that. The adjudicators established 3 finalists for this category, and they were Colwood, the city of Colwood, which is near Victoria, city of Dawson Creek, and the township of Spalum-Cheen. Our application was very well written and presented through the tourism group in town, and featured our partnership with Hockey Canada and the Show the Badge campaign and so on. Unfortunately, we didn't get the first prize. That went to the township of Spalum-Cheen. And I won't say anything further about that. Because at any rate, it was a classy function. I actually dusted off one of my suits, which I'm wearing today, which I hadn't worn a suit for about a year. But it's a very well-put convention, and it made me really appreciate the importance of supporting small business. It also made me appreciate the ingenuity and inventiveness of people. Some of the new businesses that were recognized were just totally exciting. And one that my last comment, one that really struck a chord with me was from the Sunshine Coast. It won first prize in one of the categories. And we all know there's a great deal of waste, food waste, from not only household disposal of food at restaurant, but also actually at places such as Safeway and other. And this company has collects all the foods that's not being used or is stale dated, and really produces some beautiful canned products, and very successful and rapidly expanding, based out of Gibson's. So just many ideas. So I enjoyed going to that, and I recommend that if next time, if we are lucky to be a finalist, whoever goes has a speech well laid out, because it's like the Oscars of small business. So I had my speech, but I couldn't use it. Okay, Thank you very much. Suggest we take a small break, 5 minutes, and we'll then proceed with our minutes and so on. Okay? The council meeting February the 10th. Adoption. Councillor Earl, seconded. Councillor Kemp, all in favour?
Through you, Mr. Chair.
So, Your Worship, in a unique position here, having served as an elected councillor during the last minutes, and then here, I think we've made some changes to the Caribou recovery statement, but I do want to make a recommendation on those minutes to reflect probably closer to where my position is. I don't think it quite captures it, and I thought it did, but in review, I'd like to
Absolutely.
Okay.
So do you want to clarify that?
I would love to. So under Caribou recovery, where it says Councillor Lekstrom provided clarification on item 9.5 from the January 27th, 2020 council meeting minutes, he confirmed his support for the initiative of Caribou recovery, but in no way supported the partnership agreement without the inclusion of local government being written in. Is how I would like that worded. Years from today, when people are doing their bedtime reading and going over these minutes again, I would like them to know clearly where my position was on that.
So we'd like to have the minutes approved as adjusted by that position statement. Is that fair?
Yes, please.
Is that
If
okay?
it could be included
Mover?
in those.
Seconder? All in favour? Carried. First item of business is a letter concerning there's no business arising, I take it? No? No. So Communities in Bloom program. Can I have a motion to receive for discussion? Councillor Earl, seconded Councillor Kemp. You'll notice in the letter that it states, yes?
Voting on the motion for discussion. First, Mr. Chair.
Yes. I thought we did. All in favour? Carried. So you'll note that we were part of that some time ago, but how long ago is it that we ceased to be part of that?
It looks as though about 15 years, Your Worship. I believe 2005 in the summer, and then there was a winter event on Winter Lights in 2006. The city participated.
Okay. So what's the discussion about this? Yes.
Thank you, Worship. Looks interesting. My thoughts on the matter are that we're currently, as part of our strategic plan, looking at possible new revenue models for tourism, and that is a big undertaking. I think this Communities in Bloom piece would probably fall under whichever form tourism ultimately takes, and until we get that sorted out, I don't know that we should be committing to any new programming or expenditures on that end, or that would be my take on it anyway. Although I do think it looks like an interesting pursuit. Until we get this other stuff sorted out, I don't know if new commitments are what we should be uploading onto ourselves.
Councillor Rober?
Through you to staff, if my memory serves correctly, we actually had a volunteer group that did this for the community. They worked in conjunction with. So I know they've disbanded, so I don't think we actually have I'm going to say manpower, but women power to do this. So honestly, I'll let the question be answered, but I do believe it was done by a volunteer group.
Through you, Your Worship, previously during the involvement of Communities in Bloom, the Beautification Committee that used to be a part of the city and had a number of volunteers has since disbanded, and they were a large part of this, along with city employees and city staff, though, working to ensure the flower baskets and so on were all well maintained and presented. But the Beautification Committee is no longer existing.
I would like to move that we receive for information.
Seconder, Councillor Kemp. All in favour? Carried. Item 6.2, a letter from Rob Vagramov, Mayor of the City of Port Moody, we request for support for pharmacare program. You have that letter in your file. What's the council's disposition on that? Can I suggest we have a motion to receive for information? Councillor Wilbur, Councillor Earl, all in favour? Carried. Item 6.3, letter from Johanna Martins, Executive Director of Kiwanis Arts Centre Society. Resolution of support for the application to the Northern Development Initiative Trust Fund, the Fabulous Festivals and Events Grant, which is about $2,500. Councillor Earl.
Thank you, Worship. I move that City Council of Dawson Creek supports the application to Northern Development Initiative Trust by KPAC for a grant of up to $2,500 for the Peace River South Festival of the Arts 2020.
Seconder, Councillor Kemp. All those in favour? Carried. Item 7.1. Report number 20024 from the City Planner, Temporary Use Permit 20-01. Councillor
receive for discussion.
Seconder. All in favour? Carried. Go ahead.
So just a question through you to staff, Your Worship. I think I get the gist of this. Have any of the neighboring businesses, properties expressed reservations about this temporary use? Or I didn't see a letter, so I assume not, but it's a little out of place given it's kind of sandwiched between a restaurant, a physiotherapy place, a hotel, and to just have a tent on a lot selling equipment seems like it could ruffle some feathers. So
we had no response from any of the adjoining businesses with any comments on the application at all.
Okay. Councillor Wilbur.
My only question through you to staff is why 8 months? Is this not something that can be done in a shorter period of time? It seems lengthy to me.
It is a decision of the board. It is flexible, the 8 months, but to get probably from this point through to the fall of the year was the thought process in putting that number.
Thank you.
Councillor.
I'll move the recommendation that report number 20-024 from the City Planner regarding temporary use permit 20-01 application Carl Dolan, 1140 Alaska Avenue be received. Further, that the TUP 20-01 be granted for the period of 8 months to allow for temporary equipment and machinery sales at 1140 Alaska Avenue.
Seconder, Councillor Kemp. Any further discussion? All those in favour? Carried. Item 7.2, report 20-028 from the Mayor re Peace River Regional District legislated and bylaw appointments.
I'll move the report.
Councillor Wilbur.
I move that report number 20-028 from Mayor Bumstead regarding the Peace River Regional District legislated and bylaw appointments be received. Further, that Councillor Charlie Parcel be appointed to the Peace River Regional District Board and the South Peace Economic Development Commission as an alternate.
Seconder, Councillor Kemp. Discussion? All those in favour? Carried. Item 8.1, Water Rates and Regulations Amendment Bylaw number 4434, 2020 for consideration of adoption.
So moved.
Seconder?
Seconded.
Councillor Earl. All those in favour? Carried. Item 8.2, Sewer Rates and Regulations Amendment Bylaw number 4435, 2020 for consideration of adoption. Councillor Earl. Seconded, Councillor Kemp. Discussion, all those in favour, carried. Item 8.3, Solid Waste and Recyclable Material Regulation Amendment Bylaw number 4436/2020 for consideration of adoption. Councillor Earl, seconded Councillor Wilbur. Any discussion? All those in favour? Carried. Item 8.4, Fire Protection Amendment Bylaw 4457/2020 for consideration of adoption.
So moved.
Councillor Wilbur moves, seconded Councillor Kemp. Any discussion? All in favour? Carried. 8.5, from the Deputy Corporate Officer, Fees and Charges Bylaw Amendment Bylaw number 4437 for consideration of the first 3 readings. Councillor Earl moved, seconded. Councillor Wilbur, any discussion? Go ahead.
Thank you, Worship. I'd just like to comment, I guess, on the report we received, specifically the revenue piece we asked for follow-up on with respect to cash fares from the monthly passes that show that students comprise the majority of the monthly passes sold by a ratio of about 3 to 1. So almost 600 student passes to just about 200 for adults and seniors, which I think reaffirms Council's previous impression that we had that this was primarily being used as a commuter service for school-age kids. So I think certainly we had a lot of discussion a couple weeks ago at a public budget meeting around these cuts and what they mean and what the impact is, and seeing this data gives me a bit more peace of mind that those cuts won't be nearly as impactful as some. Certainly they'll impact some, but not nearly as drastic as many were concerned. So thank you to staff for the follow-up.
Any other comments? I found the data concerning the number of senior passes to be interesting as well. How few seniors who are eligible for passes actually seem to use it. Is there any further comments? Or can we have it? Yes,
through you, Your Worship. I know there was a question of council at the last meeting based on the possibility for reduced fares for seniors when it came to cash fares or students. That question was pursued with BC Transit, and you will note through the discussions that the new fare collection technology can only accept one cash fare, which I wanted to point that out because that question was asked of council, or of administration.
Okay, so we have a motion for adoption. Do we have that? Yes, okay, all in favour? Yes?
The motion is just for first 3 readings.
First 3 readings, yes, sorry. Yeah, first 3 readings. Thank you. So under Mayor's business, we have a request from Tristan Lear re the Accessible Parking Campaign, and the use of she's kindly going to donate one of the signs if we so wish. So what is the will of council on that request? Councillor Wilbur.
I would like to move that we grant the request and place the new sign. I believe we have a handicap parking stall currently across from City Hall here by the Fire Hall, which I do believe that is where our delegate is parked, and I did go out and peek and there's room there, so I believe that I would like to have that sign put there. That's my motion. But to add to that, I would like to direct staff to work on a resolution for the NCLGA forum that's coming up in May, and that we pursue asking our colleagues to support a change in legislation for accessible parking.
Okay. Seconder for that motion? Councillor Kemp, any discussion? Just a point of interest for me is if we have, and I just like clarification for the presenter here. So we have this sign that would be posted where we have the designated parking right now. We're not talking about a space for ramps at this time. We're just you changing it to the sign accessible parking. Is that correct?
Yes, just
Okay.
to display the sign
At this time,
and bring
okay.
awareness.
Thank you. Okay. All those in favor? Carried. We had a request from Chris and Gary, the proposed agreement extension for solid waste collection service for the city of Dawson Creek, to harmonize that with the recyclable contract, so they would both expire at the same time, with a notice that would be to enter into, I guess, discussion, because there was some tweaking of the contract. So I guess, what is the will of council about this? Do you want us to ask staff to report back on the discussions, or what is it? Is there any interest? Yes, Councillor.
I would move that we direct staff to enter into discussions with Waste Management on harmonizing the collection. And I do believe there was some, I don't know how to wordsmith that, I do believe there's some other items that they wish to discuss with the city.
Okay.
So how can we wordsmith that? I do believe we should enter in discussions on harmonizing the contract to meet the same, so we're renegotiating on both at one time, but I do believe there were some other topics they wish to discuss.
Okay.
You can clean up my motion for me, please.
So I have a motion to direct staff to engage in some discussions concerning the possible synchronizing of the contracts.
Yes, thank you.
Yes, Brenda?
Through you, Mr. Chair, just to confirm that it would come back to council for approval.
Absolutely, yes. Councillor O.
And I don't know whether, sorry, do we need a motion on Shaylee's?
Oh, yes, she's made a motion. So
Okay, so I'll second it.
Okay.
And I don't know if it needs an amendment, but I would also, at the time they bring back a report, any alternative options that they think are appropriate, I'd also like to see. So
That is standard practice, I think, for our staff.
If they've got a better idea.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So my understanding would be that staff would enter into some discussions, report back.
Just following through you, your worship, the request is to extend the contract for the 40 months to align it with the Blue Box collection contract as well. We will have those discussions with Waste Management representatives and bring it back, but I am not hearing the council today in this resolution saying move forward without tendering this. You would like us to engage in that discussion with Waste Management and bring back options, is that?
That's right. That's my understanding. There's a request being made. There'll be some discussions about that, and you'll report back to council
We
before
will do
anything
that.
happens. Yeah.
Thank you.
All those in favour? Carried. We do have the need, I think, from the business that's preceded us at this point, to have a motion to direct staff to meet with representatives of Argo and whoever the other
Ministry of Transportation.
and Ministry of Transportation around issues to do with snow removal and the arterial road system. So can I have a motion from Councillor Wilbur, seconded Councillor Kemp, directing staff to meet with Argo and Ministry of Highways concerning snow removal on the arterial system? All those in favour? Carried. Moving on to the diary, nothing in the diary, correct? Consent calendar. We have a number of items that require consent listed there. Have a motion to accept these consent items. Do we do that?
Yes, you do, Your Worship.
Councillor Earl, seconder. Councillor Wilbur. All those in favour? Carried. Strategic priorities chart. Is there a plan to, as many of these items have been significantly leveraged or are underway, to update this for the 2021 budget, or am I being premature?
I think Council, upon conclusion of the 2020 budget and those discussions as they're ongoing, once finalized, there will be strategic discussions put forward through yourself, Your Worship, or the Mayor and Council upon his return to develop the strategies moving forward with a mindset of what have we accomplished under the existing strategic plan that is out there, but also talking about new ones moving forward.
Okay. Media questions? Any questions from the media? Any questions from the media?
No? All right.
I was just being funny. 3 times, you know, you're asked to. Thank you anyway for being present. Appreciate that. Okay. So we now have the Committee of the Whole reports. So is the Staff Sergeant here? Or?
Here, Mr. Chair, I've just sent an email asking admin to contact me.
Okay.
A little earlier than usual.
So do you want to send him that email and we'll...
Yep, they're going to contact him.
Okay. So the airport manager's here. Shall we proceed with the report from the airport manager, please?
Morning, Your Worship, Council, City staff, there's one person in between. Great to be here today. The report, I'd like to highlight a few things. So we've completed an annual safety management system check, which is regulated with our accountable executive and Wasco, who's providing that service in Winnipeg. And there was no findings related to SMS regarding our airport, which was good to see. Our BC ambulance medevac statistics keep rising. We seem to be getting more and more medevacs than we have in the past, which is both a good thing for the airport, but a bad thing for our citizens, of course. We're spending the majority of my time getting ready for the new WestJet Link Pacific Coastal service to Calgary return, and just a report on that front. Things are going fine. We've got cabinets to build, which are almost built, and approvals to get from Transport Canada on the airport. I can tell you that Transport Canada has assured me that we've done all we need to do to get their blessing. Now it's just the airline has to get a certificate of operation for this airport, but that's for their type of aircraft. We've completed our authorizations. If you look at the stats, I would like to mention one thing. I'd like to pull the passenger stats out of here, because every month I come here and I tell you that they're unreliable. So the aircraft movement stats are very reliable, because they come from the flight service station that deals with each aircraft that lands here. And we actually had a large increase in 2019 over 2018. Then if you look at our passenger stats, they actually go down. Now there's a reason for that. Is a lot of the airlines are charters currently and don't share their statistics with us. So until we can get a better handle on passenger statistics, I don't really like to put them out in front of you every month because they're far higher than what the stats show. And we've had a request from one of your local cab companies to be like enter into a partnership where they get licenses for their cabs and they will bring all the arriving passengers into town. Anybody that wants to go to the airport can use any cab company, but similar to larger airports, the cabs that bring people into town or wherever from the airport would have a license. Would generate a slight revenue increase as we sell these licenses to the number of cabs. So it's something we're looking into, and that we need your approval for if we decide to go that way, probably next month. Is there any questions?
I have a couple of questions.
Sure.
Under the news and notes.
Oh, yes.
So the second bullet, we currently cannot accurately provide passenger numbers as we have a gap in reporting. You've explained that to vis-a-vis the charter. So what about just changing it to scheduled passengers services?
If we gave you those passenger numbers, that would be accurate.
Yes, I'm just making that as a suggestion.
Yeah, okay. Sure, yeah, that's fine.
Because I fully understand the charter side of things. I mean, I was one who was interested in some of the previous statistics. But why not, as just a suggestion,
Yeah,
the
no.
scheduled in lieu of that, that's, I guess, for your call, but so the airport usage stats attached show a healthy increase in 2019 over 2018. Now, you attribute that in part to Medivats. Is there any other contributing factor?
The amount of charter traffic is...
so that's really the oil gas industry,
yeah,
probably?
Yeah, that's the oil and gas industry. And the amount of... the amount of helicopter traffic doing their regulatory flights over power lines.
Yeah. No, that's good in many ways. I wonder if the WestJet service will reduce the number of charters.
Yeah, we are expecting that, yes, because we use the charter company statistics and their letters from their oil companies that said we'd rather fly commercial. So if that goes to fruition, we would lose not all of our charters, but currently we have 3 steady ones a day, 3 steady different charters a day basically during the week.
Right.
And we foresee a drop to 1 or 2.
Yeah. Councillor Earl.
Thank you, Worship. Just with respect to the dramatic increase in traffic, the 77%, I mean, I don't expect you to feel, but what kind of revenue opportunities are created with that, or is that just kind of a pass-through, or are we...
The revenue for everyone except the small local private aircraft, which we don't have many of, we get revenue from aircraft landings, so each time they land, and each time they use the terminal. Now, the bigger charter companies use the terminal for their passengers, so we get extra revenue from both aircraft landings and aircraft and people using the terminal. Also, the increase in traffic would correlate to an increase in selling fuel services.
That's good to know.
Yeah, and also in the winter in de-icing services as well. Yeah.
All right.
But that's to a much lesser extent.
Any other questions? Now, I appreciate the efforts being shown here for trying to improve revenue and other those things, and keep up the good work. Thank you.
Thank you.
So is the RCMP here, Duncan?
Not yet. No RCMP yet? Not yet.
Okay, so we'll have our next report then. corporate officer. Thank you.
Yes. Thank you, Mr. Chair. I have a couple of items to bring forward from my report. The first one is in regards to Chamberlain Park encroachments. Progress continues on that. There's no land sale agreements finalized yet, but we have been asked to do some revised sketches based on their current fence lines. So it continues. And the other item I wanted to discuss was the Kiwanis Club Home and Leisure Show. It's been changed from April until September, and unfortunately that falls at the same time as UBCM. So I'm assuming that most all of mayor and council will be attending UBCM. So that would cause a problem in regards to staffing shifts at the booth. So I just wanted to get your thoughts on if we just wanted to have a static display, or if some of the councillors may not be attending UBCM that could man the booths. And we may need to have approved funding for staff to take shifts at the booth. That would be another option.
Councillor Wilk.
I will not be attending UBCM, so I am available.
And Councillor Jubakov, I would be very, very, very surprised if he was attending UBCM, so there's a second.
He loves the extracurricular stuff.
Yeah. I'm sure CAO would stay behind and look after cover for the rest of us. So.
Whatever you would like me to do, Your Worship.
No, that's tongue in cheek. Councillor Earl.
And it might not be appropriate to ask you, did they give a reason as to why the trade show was being, I know last year they conflicted with Chetwynd, and because they did their pipe and drape through the event center, they're not on the same tour circuit as many of the other regional trade shows, but did they give, was that the reason they gave this time, or is it just?
There was a conflict with the dates that they booked.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't fully committed to UBCM yet, but my intention is to attend once I get a chance to review see what their agenda is this year. So I probably won't be available, but I think if we are going to try and staff it with staff, we make sure we're not setting up a booth that's themed with anything too difficult for them to explain on our behalf. So I don't know, just off the top of my head, based on the discussion we've had, maybe a bit more public education around recycling might be in order, or something like that.
So let's see who can make a definite commitment to this booth before we decide to have one. That's my view. If it's going to be 2 or 3 council members, you're comfortable looking after the 2 or 3 days, that's fine. Otherwise, let's leave it to another meeting, perhaps.
Yeah, the conference is complete that Friday, so just depending how soon the mayor and council return back to the community. We do have a bit of time to make that decision, so I'll bring it forward when we hear back from them.
Okay. Anything else?
I'm not sure if you wanted to hear anything in regards to by-election options.
I think you should share that for the public.
Let's do it.
Okay, so as soon as council appoints a chief election officer, an election needs to be held within 80 days of that time. The soonest we could hold, if appointed today, would fall on the long weekend in May. So my suggestion was to use next meeting. I could bring a report forward to the next meeting. If appointed on May 9th, then we could hold a by-election on the 23rd of May. That would be the soonest time.
Okay.
Sorry, yeah. Yeah, appointed on March 9th then, sorry, yeah. Then the by-election, May 23rd would be the date. And I can provide alternatives in the next report to council. But that's my recommendation at this point.
So discussion on that point. relate the report next council meeting on this matter?
Yes.
So moved by Councillor Wilbur.
We can't make motions.
Can't make a
and-
motion.
Oh, that's right, of course we can't. So you know what we want.
I'll just bring that forward, yes.
You just do that, Brenda.
Okay, anything else?
That's all I had to bring up unless there's any questions.
Okay, any further questions? Moving on then, is the RCMP here? No?
Oh, yeah. All right.
Welcome.
Morning.
So the floor is yours.
All right. Well, good morning. Damon's away today. And I just got this report, so bear with me. So policing report, January of 2020. So we'll just go over detachment resourcings right now. Constable Clyde Firo transferred from the Dawson Creek detachment to Provincial Traffic Services, which now brings them up to 2 here in town. Succession planning here is 2 constables anticipated to leave here in February. One's gone already. The second will be heading out here in March. One of them we already have a replacement. We have 1 new recruit started last week. We got a second one starts tomorrow and a third in a couple weeks time. Just found out today that we're losing 2 more senior members to transfer, so we're losing them. Right now the detachment has 7 soft vacancies, though 3 members on pat or maternity leave. 2 of them are off-duty sick or injured. One's on a graduated return to work, and the one is on admin light duties. Annual policing plan priorities, objectives for this year, to decrease the break-in enters by 8 to 10% by March 31st of 2020, which initiatives are Bait Car program, which we have here in town, the COP, Citizens on Patrol and Rural Crime Watch, and we had a public town hall meeting that you might be aware of last week. So by the end of, decrease the number of break-in enters by 8 to 10%. To date, from last year, it's decreased by 13%. And decrease the number of thefts or vehicle thefts is again 8 to 10%. Vehicle thefts have decreased by 25% the same time last year. I do want to say, don't leave your car keys in your vehicle, as many of them, that's how they're getting stolen. Organized crime, increase the number of breach charges by 10 to 15%. So initiatives, what we're doing with that is some monthly tracking of curfew checks of our prolific offenders. 701 curfew checks have been completed, which has resulted in 43 breach charges and submitted to Crown Council. Warrant roundup, so several people within the community are outstanding and have warrants for their arrest. So we're taking the initiative to go out and locate these individuals and bring them before courts. And the prolific offender program, our GIS unit, has their names and we're targeting them. So the results increase the number of breach charges by 10 to 15%, and this is ongoing. Mental health. So the objective there is to decrease the number of mental health calls by 10 to 15%. The initiatives there, Mental Health Strategy Committee, a member here, Constable Carly Van High, is our mental health liaison, who meets regularly to address the mental health in our community. To conduct a review of the mental health calls for 2018. This is recognized that they need a review of mental health calls. due to the sharp increase back in 2018. And establishment of the new mental health response protocol, identify the need to establish new mental health response to ensure police resources are adequately utilized. As we do get a number of calls that we get called out, and it takes a lot of time out of our day when we can have someone else deal with it. And decrease, so that's the result, decrease the number of mental health calls, again, by 10 to 15%. And in comparison to last year, that's a decrease of 13%. So. And we have, I'm not sure if I'll go through all the crime reporting trends. A lot of them have decreased throughout the year. Like I say, we're going to have 3 or 4 new recruits to teach here this year, so we'll get them up in training. In closing, Dawson Creek RCMP, so significant arrest during the month of January, as you may have well heard. These two specific fellas have taken a lot of our time and resources, not here only in Dawson Creek, but in Alberta, Beaver Lodge, Spirit River, and Fort St. John. So, like January 2nd, you could say that Devin Callio was arrested as a passenger in a motor vehicle for breach of outstanding court conditions. He's a prolific offender, and he is being held right now. Currently has 20 some criminal charges before the courts, which include multiple violent crime and firearms related matters. And on January 26th, Tyler Callio was arrested in a stolen vehicle which rammed multiple police vehicles, 2 from here and 1 from Alberta. And he was observed pointing a firearm at one of our officers. He's held under 9 criminal charges so far, with more to come. And again, we'd like to express our sincere appreciation to Dawson Creek, the village of Pooskoopi, and the surrounding communities for your support.
Thank you. So I have a couple of questions.
Sure. Glad to answer.
How is it that the RCMP is 17 times more effective at getting people to attend a public meeting than the city of Dawson Creek is? I attended the meeting at the Mercer Hall. Councillor Earl was there, I saw. And I counted the number of people there. We had a budget meeting. We had, if you discount employees and contractors, there were 4 and 2 relatives of councillors. There were 4 people from the general public. And you had about 70 people. So what is it you do so much more effectively at getting people to attend meetings than we do?
That's a good question. I don't know how we got that many. It was surprising. Yeah, there is a lot of people there that wanted to express their concern, their frustration. I think it was a well-organized 1-hour meeting where it was quite controlled, where they were in their little pods and discussed how what issues they want to see dealt with. Drugs as being, I think, the main focus. But, again, I don't know the answer how to get more to the budget meetings. So.
I've only just been slightly facetious, but I was going to ask, now let Councillor Earl ask a question, but what did you get out of that meeting? What did the RCMP get out of that input?
The input was more visibility in targeted areas. I had mentioned, and I'm sure you heard me speak about, a lot of people are frustrated that they see something happen, but the time they take to provide us with the information, they feel it's not dealt with. So why phone? But I tried to stress that we need that information. I'd like again for the public to understand that they phone something in. We do see that that little piece of information may be the piece that we need to focus our attention on a certain thing or a certain person or a certain vehicle. The location where they're at, the time they're there, all that information, some of it, yes, may not be utilized, but there is stuff that we're missing. We need that information. The second one was drugs. The drugs here in town, yes, it's, speaking with several people from the community, they've lived here all their lives, 40, 50 years, and we're seeing this increase in drug activity and, drug houses. We can't, we have laws to follow, and we can't go into a known drug house just like that. It takes time, it takes information, it takes resources. We can't always be watching a drug house. Some guy walking down the street at 2 o'clock in the morning with a backpack. Sure, we can go and have a chat with him, but we can't say, open up your backpack. They have a right to, with that backpack. If there's, we are making the stops, we're talking to them, we can't just arrest them. So, but the main focus is, visibility, drugs, and I think a lot of people are frustrated with the court systems, as we are.
Oh, I think that was very strong. Much of the concern was more, it wasn't at the RCMP, it was at the judicial system that we operate with. Councillor.
Thank you, Your Worship. And just first a comment and then a question. So with respect to following up on the public engagement session, as Councillor Parslow said, very well attended. Kudos to you guys. Anyone who, most of the people that come out to something like that have either been personally affected by crime or something. So as was, they're very passionate, I guess would be the how I'd describe it. And you guys did a good job of trying to keep people on topic, and as some people want to do in situations like that, and grandstand and make it about this one issue from, as opposed to we're here to talk about strategic priorities moving forward. So, but kudos to you, and you stood outside the room. When I left, you were still outside taking questions and answering questions, and as Councillor Parslow said, a lot of the frustrations expressed, I think, have more to do with our criminal justice system in general than with the performance of our local detachment. And my question, obviously I'm very sorry to hear we're going to be losing 2 senior staff members. I know in previous conversations we've had with Damon, he'd mentioned that it was the prerogative of the staff sergeant to delay or hold transfers until such a time as those vacancies are filled, or we've got a commitment to fill those vacancies. Is that something we can expect in this instance, or are we going to be down 2 hard vacancies in addition to the 7 soft vacancies we currently have?
So I'm looking at, we have 1 senior, so we still got one he should have been gone right now, but he's not, so he's a 4.5 year member. He's already got his replacement here with a 4.5 year replacement. He's working already, so we're 1 STE, surplus to establishment right now with that member. We have 1 extra, I guess, recruit. So right now he's brand new, been here a week. They're considered not really on the road. They're still learning for the next 6 months before they can be on their own. I know Damon's spoke, and we'll be discussing this with staffing, is to put out on our job board that Dawson Creek, like I just got off the phone from staffing just before coming here, and we'll put into on our job board that we need 2 members. So I'm sure it's a 90 PID date, so 3 months down the road, depending on the sale of their house. So we hope to get in front of these 2 leaving, because one of them, yes, is actually working, but the other is on parental leave, so it's not really.
Okay, thank you.
So we hope to get in front of that before it happens. If not, I'm not sure what else Damon has in the works, so.
Okay.
Any other questions? Thank you for your work. Thank you for being here.
Thank you very much.
I just say one of the big challenges I think for the RCMP is education of its public, because in spite of your colleague giving a very clear explanation about why you can't arrest certain people at certain times, I don't think the general public understood what he was talking about at all.
Right.
And so education, just like you did a very good proactive thing with the business community about sort of making your place less prone to break-in. Sometimes it seems we need to try to educate people around what can be done and what can't be done, because there's no point people getting in a stew over something that you have no control over.
Yes.
You know what I mean? It's negative energy, right?
I agree.
Yeah. Okay, thank you so much.
Okay, thank you. Take care. Have a good morning.
Our Chief Financial Officer has a report for us to review, so welcome.
Thank you. So mainly in summaries, on January we had our second draft meeting discussions, which is 1 month ahead of what we've been historically doing it. We managed to have the public consultation on February 10th, and as your worship mentioned, about 4 residents, and of course the rest was the staff and council. But I think the consultation was good, was well present by mayor and council, and we're gonna have our 3rd draft discussion next council meeting on March 9. So I had the chance to provide to management a projection of 5 years, and we'll be discussing within this week how to proceed with the presentation on March 9. I also would like to address that we are currently working with the 2021 permissive tax exemption report that I will be bringing on March 9 to council, just before on March 11, where at 7 p.m. at KPAC, we are inviting the organizations that are current, the council is granted permissive tax exemption, to come and present the group of what they do and how this fits to the new approach that council is getting for the permissive tax for the next year. We had the auditors here last week. They just completed the audit. We are still pending the numbers from tourism and Incana, which is also their responsibility to provide, so we can consolidate the financial statements. And we hope to have this read by mid-March, and then generate the financial statement for discussion and draft approval on council, for council on April. And that's it for now. Any questions?
One question I have is not related to your report, but your comments have prompted it in my mind. Last council meeting, I asked that we have a meeting to review the operational budget, so we have a bit of a narrative overview, page by page. Has a date been set aside for that yet by admin?
Through your worship, no, there hasn't. With the mayor being away at this point, we were going to look for a date that would work for his worship as well. And then we will bring something back for council and speak with council to find the appropriate date that will work best for everybody.
Okay. The figures for the, again, going back to budget, the Peace River Accord funding, just refresh my memory, those figures that we had in our last budget presentation are firm, right? That they are the final revenue disposition from the Peace River Accord?
That's for the sub-regional, PRA?
Yeah. No.
Peace River Agreement. Peace River
PRA.
The PRA, yes,
Yeah.
yes. The one that we got in 2020 on draft 2,
That's
the
the
revised
final.
version is the final number.
Thanks.
However, So that's the number we got from the regional district. So then it was sent to the ministry, and normally beginning of April, that's when they confirm yes, they give their blessing. But that's the number we use it.
Okay, the blessing's yet to be received.
The blessing is yet to be done.
Okay, thank you very much. No other questions? Thank you very much, Flavia. Community Services.
Good morning. Mr. Chair and Council, before we start, we'd just like to introduce officially our Fire Chief, Bob Olson. And we'd like to introduce our Deputy Fire Chief, Fred LaRose, who's been in the region for 17 years. So official. Brought some guests.
Well, I recognize Fred. I saw Fred at Leo Sobolski's funeral. David taught there, didn't you? Yeah.
So good morning. We'll start with, do you guys have any questions for our Fire Chief this morning with the report that was presented?
That's a nice deflection.
Are you asking?
So you had a question. Any questions of the report concerning the fire department? None? Okay.
Perfect. Well, thank you. We're going to bring the safety officer to sit beside me while we start. So, of course, the safety department focuses on right now the Work Safe BC certification of recognition, which is core. So we are working with that continuously to get our core certification. We hired a health and safety clerk. She officially started January 2020. Her name is Sarah Fallis, and she works half-time with safety and the other half as our facility and maintenance clerk. With the Joint Health and Safety Committee, they recorded increased participation in conducting workplace inspections, in reviewing incident inspection reports for appropriate recommendations, and with implementation of correction actions. So we're very pleased with that. We also had a group, Yinka had a group work through the Safety Committee, through the Central Health, to develop the implementation of the new incident report and investigation form, which was presented, and we are now implemented within all of the Joint Health and Safety Committee, which is the forms and flow charts, which is working really well. There's some events that are coming up, as Councillor Kemp has said, where there's a pink shirt day, which is February 27th, which is coming up February 26th. You said the 26th, I have the 27th. Sorry, it's the 26th. We are going to be bringing in pizza for staff, and everyone will be wearing their pink shirt so that we will support across the organization this event. Day of Mourning is coming up April 26th. The event will host the barbecue, how we have it, and the ceremony, and open to the community. They did the testing October 7th and 8th for the autometric testing for 90 employees. We also participated in the flu shot vaccination, which 20 staff were part of, on October 29th and November 8th. The biggest news, I guess, is what we're most excited for is the WorkSafe BC Premium Net rate for 2020. We had a 23.6% experience rating discount, which worked into 1.78, which is the $1.78 to $1.67 decrease for our staffing, which is great. It's a premium that is used that we pay on our staff per 100. I think that's correct. I said it? Yeah. All right. Also, the general manager, as well as Yinka, the safety coordinator, sat in a meeting with the coronavirus, which now I guess they call it COVID 2019, on February 3rd with the Northern BC emergency managers. Just talked about things that we could be doing in our area. One of the common precautions that they talked about was making sure that influenza are advised. Please make sure that everyone is washing their hands with soap and water. Avoid touching faces and with unwashed hands. Avoid contact with sick people, and stay home when you're sick. The city has also acquired several N95 respirator masks for staff in the unlikely event of an outbreak. The next thing that we'll talk about is the British Columbia Municipal Safety Association Guide internal audit. Yinka has completed that part. He is working with did the audit with the Public Works Department, and he is working now with BCMSA to just look at the valuation and determine what has happened with that. Again, we're working towards our core certification, so this is the first step to work within one department to see where we're sitting at. And that is it for us that I'm going to report on this part. Do you guys have any questions for Yinka or myself?
I have one question. You know, I mean, obviously it's safety, work safe is very important. I'm also interested in, because of the proactive work that is being done, we now have this rate reduction. What does that translate in a year for the total, for the city? I mean, how many tens of thousands of dollars are we saving?
Can you answer that, or you need to?
Do you know?
I'm sorry?
Well, we've had a rate reduction as a result of our claims history, the work that's been done here. And so we were told our rate has gone from 180 something to $160 in the $100. So what does that translate if that for a year?
That's a good question. I don't know by heart.
What's our annual wage budget? 12 million?
Is it annual wage budget
yes, 12 million.
multiplied by?
Divided by 100.
I bet it's significant.
$12.
You know.
Yeah, if you do.
So if we got the certification related to that, right? So you said we are working towards the core certification. If we get that certification, would that result in a further reduction? Do you know?
Yes.
Assuming that we don't have an outbreak of claims, you know what I mean?
Yes.
I believe it's claim driven as well as the work that you've got in place that determines the charge, doesn't it?
Your Worship, yes. It's a 10% discount that the Works NBC gives back to the city if we qualify, if we pass
for that core certification. Yeah. 10% of further reduction.
10%, yeah, further reduction, 10% of our accessible payroll of what we pay to Works NBC for the insurance of workers.
Yes. Yeah. Okay. Yes, Councillor.
Just a question, next year, if you're going to do another flu vaccine clinic, can you share that information with council beforehand if we have the opportunity to participate? I think there might be some that might want to do it. Great that you did, and we're glad to hear after the fact that some people took advantage of it, but we'd also maybe like to...
We'll be doing it every year in the fall.
Okay.
So, for sure, we'll put that down.
And sorry, follow up again, is there any way to extend to the Spectre employees as well? I know when I worked there, you come into contact with a lot of elderly people on the walking track and through concerts and kids and stuff like that. So even though that might not be the main demographic who is encouraged to get the flu shot, we are in a public assembly venue, so it behooves us to be mindful of that.
Thank you. So just finishing up then, if there's some questions, just want to let you know our Valentine's dance had over 100 preteens on February 14th. The fun day at the Kemboric Aquatic Centre had 53 people participate at the climbing wall, 249 people participate in the bouncy castle and tattoos, and 448 swimming, and that's very thanks to BCRPA. We had a $1,000 grant, Masons and Shriners, and also Spectre, who donated some tickets. We thought you might want to know about the BC Winter Games. We had the showers. We hosted the showers at the Kemboric Aquatic Centre, so we had approximately 110 people Thursday, Friday, and Saturday come. Not everyone showered. Some of them showered and swam, so that was a great thing. So thank you very much. They were very thankful for that. And we're just waiting to find out. Senior Canucks are moving on to waiting to find out who is playing with Grand Prairie or Manning. And the Junior Canucks are 2-1 against Sexsmith, and it's a best of 5. So are there any other questions of us with the recreation?
No further questions?
Good job.
Well, thank you.
Thank you.
So I don't have any indication that we have a calculation yet on our savings, no? Approximately?
43,000.
43,000 approximately, yeah.
Approximately.
I just know from my past life that, you know, being proactive around these sort of things, not only is it the right thing to do, but it also has some monetary benefits as well. So whilst you're spending money, you're getting savings at the other end.
But definitely safety's moving in the right direction.
Yes,
Thanks,
absolutely.
Sheikha. Doing a great job.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
It's in here, but what happened here, see, is that payroll, it's high, so then you don't see it if you compare.
I thought we'd forego your report. Is that okay?
That's,
Only kidding. Only kidding.
I'm good.
Last but by no means least.
Thank you. Good morning, everybody. Won't take too much of your time. A couple things to touch on in the report. First off, some good news. Our building inspector has recently passed his level 2 exams, so he'll soon be certified as a level 2, and he's working on his level 3, hoping to get that completed sometime in 2020. So that's really good news. As council may recall, that there are some changes coming in the building acts that require certain levels of certifications for various inspections, so that's going to position us well. So it's congratulations to Bill for his hard work in getting there, and it's really good news. Another staffing note, council's aware Devin Arrow is going to be moving from Water Resource Manager out to Public Works Manager. He'll be transitioning sometimes in March, and we're currently looking for his replacement out at the water treatment plant. A couple other notes. We've recently completed 2 new columbariums at the City Cemetery. That was completed in January. That work was tendered in last fall. And that was important because we were running out of space for columbarium stalls. So that's going to give us, I think, about another 96 or something like that spots. So that's going to set us up for some time. So that's good. Moving on to some water-related things. One thing I wanted to note is the South Dawson Reservoir is about 76% full. So that's great. We've been chugging along, and that's coming along quite nicely. And the Kiskatna River, as you'll note again, we are above the weir, and I mention this because it's been like that now for probably 2.5 to 3 years above the weir. And if I look back to when I took this job in 2006, probably the first 10 years of the job, we were very concerned and focused on water and the supply, and there was not many days in the year that the water was above the weir. Really just spring freshet, but then summers it was below, winters it was below. But really for the last 2.5, 3 years, we've seen the Kiskatna very stable and very high. So again, that's really great news. That speaks to the health of the watershed right now. So it's worth noting. One other thing I wanted to touch on was I had Chelsea provide some information on red wigglers or verma composting. The mayor had asked some questions, and there was a presentation at the regional board in regards to what Fort Nelson is doing with the red wigglers and their composting programs. So what we're suggesting at this point in time is that the regional district's doing a pilot program at North Peace Landfill, where they're going to look at doing some red wigglers. Our hope is that that works out and that they move that also to the South Peace at Besborough, and then hopefully what we will have an opportunity to do is take our yard waste and move it out to Besborough, and that will result in us not having to have our own program. So I've had some discussions with Jarrett at the RD and just kind of charting that out, and they're definitely on board, but they just want to pilot the composting. There's also some regulatory changes that are coming. So our belief is we'll allow the regional district to kind of work through those initial steps and see if they can get that up and running. If they can, then I think there's some great opportunity for our citizens and for the city to be able to move our yard waste out there in the coming years.
So do you see us having a green bin program?
Well,
if this works out?
If it works out, what I'm hoping in initial discussions is that we might look at continuing with a drop-off center the way, because that works well and everybody's trained and programmed to go there. It's really about maybe altering that a bit to where we could see individuals dropping that off at that site and possibly dropping it right off into one of those large roll-off bins that they use out at the transfer stations and things like that, and then that would be transferred out to Besborough. So it wouldn't be curbside, it would still be handled in a very similar manner, be a drop-off, it would be just transported differently. So those are the kind of the initial thoughts we're having.
Time will tell.
Time will tell.
Right.
But I think even if we have to pay for the transport of that material, it'll be a significant savings over how we're handling it today. So hopefully.
Well, the only thing I'm getting at is, you know, the municipalities that I know a bit about in the south, it's always blue, green and black, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So then you decrease your pickup of the black bin stuff there to once every 2 weeks and intersperse that with the 2 weekly pickup of the green bin. But anyway, we'll see how things go, because it's been difficult enough just doing the blue bin here, hasn't it?
Yeah. So any questions on the report or anything else that I can help with?
The format seems somewhat changed from previous reports. Is that just kind of there's some year-end retrospective stuff in there, or are you just changing it up moving forward?
Yeah, to be honest, there was a bit of a scramble near the end. I was away, and then when I came back, there was some other of my staff away, so we were scrambling to put it together, so that probably looks a bit,
Okay.
But there was some year-end also from Public Works on there that we do track annually, just to see where our efforts go, and you'll see that in some of those charts.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Well, pass our congratulations on to Devin.
Yes, thank you.
So I'm amazed you didn't write this report in Hawaii.
I thought about it, but actually I didn't.
For a fleeting second.
Not even.
No, thanks, Kevin.
Thank you.
Good stuff. It is strange, though, about that river you're talking about. I mean, what's happening that's caused that? I mean, I remember when I was first on council, we were always concerned about the level of the weir, and it certainly hasn't been to the fore for years.
Yeah, it's really the recharge of the wetlands that feed that river especially through this time of year. We've had some wet years, and it's just it's in a good spot compared to where we were, like say, 10 or 15 years ago.
Yeah. So can I ask a question as with water? With the flood mitigation stuff, I know a lot of mapping has been done. And I recall, maybe one of the meetings I missed, that there's some further mapping being done, or finalization of mapping. Can you just show me in about what's left?
The most recent grant that we are completing, that we received and the work we're completing, was to update, give us the most current flood mapping for the community.
Yeah.
Also with that, we're going to be able to run some scenarios with the software that's provided, and the mapping that will able to look at a couple of options of infrastructure options, let's say, of changing a crossing at 102nd from a culvert to a bridge and see what impacts that has. So we're probably in a position to run those scenarios hopefully in early March, and as I said, that updated mapping is also going to position us well for as we move forward to make some decisions on other opportunities. So.
Okay.
Yeah.
So thank you very much.
Thank you.
So we will take a 5-minute break and then go. Yes. Sorry.
First, the motion to
recess.
Motion to move into close.
So moved.
So seconded by Councillor Kemp. I was trying to do that when we gathered again. But,
All in favor?
all in favour? I thought you said something else. With the F word there.
Close to hands, no.
Sign language.